Greetings everyone, this is Danny from harrtravel.com, and I'm currently sailing on board the beautiful Le Champlain from Ponant. It's one of their Explorer class vessels, so it can go just about anywhere in the world. With 88 staterooms, it's small, it's luxurious, and it's a perfect place to explore the world. So come on board as we show you around. So as we're heading on in, I just wanted to point a few things out on the side of the ship. I mentioned it in the room tours, make sure that you check those out. Really incredibly diverse room types on board this ship. But you can see on deck 3 here, all of the staterooms are gonna have kind of a metal safety feature here essentially. So if you're on the shorter side, you may not be able to sit in the chair and see out, but that's really the only difference. In fact, I really like those rooms. You can also see that they have a single door that has a locking key, and that's just for safety, because once again, these ships dock anywhere and everywhere in the entire world. Basically when you look above that, 4, 5, and 6, they're going to have those glass balconies. 5 and 6 are where all of the suites are going to be on board, but we've actually walked half of the vessel already, so why don't you head on board with me and I'll show you what the inside looks like. All right, so now I'm heading on board. Here is our incredible cruise director. He's making everything happen on board and taking care of it. It's been a very interesting itinerary. First time that Ponant's been to a lot of these places, and so we're figuring it out as we go, right?
Correct.
There we go. All right, see you shortly. Thanks so much, Kamal. All right, so I'm gonna head on up into the ship. Follow me. So with all cruise ships, security, of course, is a major thing to think about. But when you're an expedition vessel docking in places that most have never even seen a cruise ship, or they get very few, security is even more important. So there's a lot of security measures in place. But as we head in here, I'm just going to give him my key card. He's going to verify with my photo to make sure that it's actually me. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Good news, they're gonna let me back on. So every time we've come back or gone out on an excursion, they always have Evian water for us, usually cold towels as well, which is really nice and refreshing. We're in the tropics right now, so it's a little bit warm. So on my right, I'd like to point out the passenger services desk. The ladies that have been working here the entire cruise are amazing. They can take care of just about anything that you need. You combine that with your butler if you have one, and service is pretty darn impeccable. So thank you so much.
Welcome.
All right. And then over here is the excursions desk. We're in port today, and most of the passengers are actually off the ship for an excursion because it's Palenque, which is an incredible place that this is one of the few ships that actually docks in a port that can reach it. But here they're going to answer all your questions on excursions, and they also help with arrival and departure transfers and things along those lines. This is the main lobby area. This is the only retail on board. Of course, it's French, fashion forward. I did want to point out that they have for sale the Swarovski optic binoculars. They're over 2,000 euros, and those are in all of the suites. So I've enjoyed using mine to check out when we're going into port, out of port, and seeing some wildlife as well, but that's a complimentary feature in the suites. Okay? So right over here, you have a beautiful art installation. This is the theme, like these circular, motifs throughout the entire ship, but the entire ship you'll see is very, very modern aesthetic, very light, very airy, and really a beautiful, beautiful ship in general. So, all right, so we're going to head on back now. We're on deck 3, which is where you're going to board, and it's also the bottom passenger deck. You see they have these beautiful LED screens throughout the entire ship. They're, they've got images from the cruise, but also images of the places that Ponant goes, because this ship can go just about anywhere in the world. So now we're heading into the main passenger lounge. So this has a multi-function room. So for this cruise, we've used it for entertainment. There was singing and dancing in here last night. It's also the place to gather before dinner for a cocktail. You also can have the light breakfast and lunch in here as well. And then of course, an incredible full bar. The bartenders have been amazing. They do have a large selection of complimentary beverages. And then also if you want to upgrade to kind of the premium or the high-end alcohol, pay about 20 euros a day and you can get an unlimited package for that as well. And then over here, they're going to have the coffee station. They've got Nespresso coffee. I've been really happy with the coffee service on board throughout. And then, of course, tea and everything else. But basically, this is the main lounge in the ship. Kind of like on a river cruise, because of the size, it's very similar to that. But what you're going to find is that there's a seat for everybody in every one of the spots that passengers would gather. So we've never had a problem looking for seats throughout the entire cruise. And then over here, of course, they have a grand piano, and they've got a musician on board, a singer throughout, who's going to entertain every single evening. You're not going to have the big production shows like you would on a major cruise ship, but once again, this is an expedition vessel. It's not so much about the entertainment. The entertainment is outdoors, and it's what the reason you come on board a ship like this. So now I'm heading out onto the Terrace, which once again is a multifunctional space like you're going to find on all expedition vessels. So over to my left here you have a bar, which is basically an extension of the inside bar. You got to keep in mind that this particular vessel and a couple of the Explorer vessels are really built for warmer weather, and then a couple of them are built for a little bit of the colder weather. So you're going to find a few differences, but a lot of people have breakfast, lunch, and dinner out on this space. So this is my favorite spot right here. This is the where they keep the ice cream and the sorbet. It's been absolutely delicious, and I've had my fair share and probably your fair share as well. And then as we come over here, we get into the food station. So the soups have been out of this world, as you can expect from a French chef. And then as we head on over, these are going to be set up different ways, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But essentially what you're going to have is an assortment of cheeses and breads and jams. You're going to have a full salad bar. And then also for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you can order, to a la carte to order. And so like they always have a good steak and chicken and salmon and things like that. But they'll mix it up each and every day with different assortments as well. So as you would expect on a luxury ship, of course you can also sit down at one of the seats and order it, but it's really not meant to be a formal affair. This is meant to be the alternative of the main dining room so that you can kind of eat a little bit quicker and just have a more relaxed atmosphere. They've got a great assortment of different seating. So they've got booths and bench seating. They got tables for 2, 4, 6, and 8, and then they also have basically loungers where you can sit and have a very, very casual meal. So this deck is also kind of the sun deck as well. So you're going to have some great loungers, kind of their equivalent of the bunny pad out back there. You have this incredible pool, which is an infinity pool. So I've loved sitting in here. It's got massive acrylic glass where you can look out, but it's really some of the most beautiful views off the back of the ship. And then one incredibly unique feature of this ship too is going to be the marina. So the marina is multifunctional. Right now it's set up to have kind of day loungers down there, but when you're in places where they're going to put out the kayaks or the Zodiacs, it can move up and down and adjust for the function that you're looking for. So this space is the casual, relaxing, basically chill out space on board Le Champlain. So if you'll follow me up the stairs, we're actually going to head up to the main dining room now, which is going to be on deck 4 just above us. Okay, so up here they also have a great mix of indoor and outdoor seating. So you've got these beautiful tables that are out kind of on the back wings of the ship, and then you've got maybe another half a dozen tables out here as well. And then this stairway is really, really unique because it goes all the way up to the top of the ship. And if you're accessing the passenger decks and you want to get down, this is one other way that you can get up and down, but it's really a beautiful stairway as well. So as we finish looking at the terrace area, I'm now going to head into the main part of the restaurant. So now we're in Le Nautilus, which is the formal dining room on board Le Champlain. So I was a little bit concerned when I first, got on board, or when I was thinking about this cruise, that it was just going to be only French cuisine. And what I found is they've done an incredible job of mixing the local flair, kind of everyday items that everybody's going to like, and also some incredible French food. So if you follow me along, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you've got a nice mix of seating in here. There's a seat for every single person on the ship, so you never have to worry about that. We're in Mexico currently, so they have this phenomenal fajita bar set up where they're cooking and preparing it for you a la minute. You've got the soup station here. All the soups have been amazing. And then, of course, you can't be a French cruise line. You can't be a French restaurant unless you have unbelievable bread. I think I've eaten my entire weight in baguettes, and I've only been on the ship for 4 or 5 days so far. So one thing that I love for breakfast and lunch is that they're always going to have a buffet set up. So I like to start backwards and go the other way, but right here you've got about 8 or 9 different dessert options set up. And then one thing I love for all the salads is that they've got this great mix of all the things you can put on them. They always have walnuts and pecans and pine nuts, but there's a lot of a large assortment, especially for a ship this size. So here's going to be the salad bar area, and then if you follow me over here, they always have this great selection of charcuterie meats, smoked fishes, and things like that as well. So this is a classic lunch setup. Breakfast, of course, is going to be set up very similarly, but with all the breakfast items that you can dream of. So I'm going to head around here in a circle. All right, so now you can get a great view of the entire restaurant, and then we're going to head on out. And as we do, I just wanted to point out that being a French cruise line and a French cruise ship, they have an amazing selection of not only French wines, but wines from all over the world. So if you're a vinophile, you're going to absolutely love Ponant Cruise Lines. All right, so I'm just heading out of my room, which currently is a privileged suite, number 529. And one of the super cool things on this ship that you're not going to find on just about any other cruise ship in the world, other than Ponant and maybe a few select other lines, is that you have an open bridge policy. So on deck 5, all the way forward is the bridge. So a lot of times I'll be seeing something out the side of the ship or on the ship's TV that I want to explore more, or maybe ask some questions. And so I do exactly what I'm doing right now. We're just going to head all the way straight on forward to the front of the ship to the bridge. bridge. They always have a sign on the door. It's either going to be red with no, so sometimes when they're heading out of a port, if there's a pilot in there, or some other reason why they just can't have anybody on the bridge, it's closed. But I found maybe 95% of the time that I wanted to go in there, the bridge has been open. So if you'll follow me on in, we're going to head into the bridge right now. So as you can see now, the bridge is open, as it generally is. And I wanted to point out one really cool thing there. So every time that a cruise ship stops in a new port for the first time, they get a plaque or some kind of acknowledgement for coming there. Yesterday was the first stop for Ponant and Campeche, first stop for this ship for sure. But what's really, really cool and interesting is this ship is pretty small, and it goes to all kinds of ports all over the world. So the ship is less than a year old, and the wall's almost completely full. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do with all the other ports, but I'll just mention a couple of them that I think are super cool, because we were just in Bar Harbor for fall foliage, as they were. Also, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You're not going to find that on a lot of cruise ships, but you have these great plaques that designate where you've been. And pretty soon, the entire wall all the way down the stairs is going to be full, probably by the time the ship turns 2. All right, so now we are heading on to the bridge. Of course, this is a brand new ship, incredibly modern, all the bells and whistles that you could ever imagine on a cruise ship. But believe it or not, instead of having a giant wheel like you would imagine on an old school ship, there's the steering wheel right here. But you've got the 2 chairs for the captain and the first officer. And then, of course, as we head over, you've got the offices on either side. You've got all the flags. So everywhere that they're going to go, everywhere they go, you've got flags here. I was just in the bridge of another major cruise line that does not stop in that many places, and they had about 1/10 of the flags there. So just kind of a cool thing to see with an expedition vessel. Okay, so they've got offices over here. And then, as you're going to find on all major cruise ships in the world, they're going to have 2 sets of controls, one on this side and then one on the other side. And then up top here, you've got all everything you need for navigation. It talks about all of the propulsion, the wind, the different speeds and things along those lines. So basically, the captain can steer the ship from here, from the other wing, or anywhere in the main bridge as well. So yesterday, when we were pulling out of port, the captain was out here. We were able to be with him until, right when the pilot actually started his job, and then I just headed right up the stairs to the main lounge. So I'm going to walk all the way around the front here. Okay, and just point out, you have this absolutely massive space that is open to passengers just about, 90-95% of the time on your cruise, and it's a great way to take it in. The other thing that I really, really loved was being able to look out to the front of the ship. But because this is an expedition vessel, you're going to see a lot of the inner workings of the ship are actually on the outside. So we were watching them, pull up anchor the other day. We were also watching them, bring in the ropes as they were casting off and sailing away. So once again, this is the bridge. It's open to the passengers, and it's such a cool thing to be able to be part of the navigational experience in addition to visiting some of the coolest places on the planet. All right, so now I'm headed into the photo and video shop. Basically, you're going to have a photographer, videographer on board, as you would expect on a cruise ship. They're going to go throughout the cruise. They're going to take pictures at the different events on board, but they're also going to go on the shore excursions as well. So we just did at one of the Mayan ruins yesterday, had the videographer with us, and now the photos are already up here. So basically, you can just scroll through, find your photos, you can add them to a basket and purchase them. They have several different ways of doing it. You can buy them digitally. You can even have prints made. Also, this is an art gallery, so the photos that you see on the wall here, and then as we progress in here as well, they're all for sale if you'd like to purchase them. And then I wanted to point out one other really cool space. So one, this space has not been used at all on this cruise, so it's a nice little nook to get away. If you have some kiddos on board, this is a great spot for them because you got the TV with the HDMI hookup, so you can play video games or set up your computer or whatever you want here. But also in here you have another library that's going to have a mix of more teenage books, and then you're going to have some fun games, Pictionary, Mastermind, Scrabble, and puzzles. But also it's just this really kind of like tucked away spot that's really nice and quiet that I've been able to use on board the cruise myself. Okay, and as we continue on through here, you can also see they have this table set up for games, and they also put together, card player meetup. They'll play bridge and different games along those lines if you're interested in joining your fellow passengers. So now I'm heading into the Jules Verne Observatory Lounge. So I love how they keep the theme throughout the entire ship. You have the Nautilus restaurant, the Jules Verne Lounge. This ship is all about explorers because it's an expedition ship, and because of that, you have all of these fantastic books in the library that are very specific to the areas they've gone, also to the areas that they're going going to go to. So they do a great job curating it based on where they travel. So you can see there's a lot of seating up here. And if you'll follow me over to this side, you're going to have a full bar. I've come up here several times to have coffee in the morning. It's also a great place for a pre-dinner cocktail. And once again, because the lounge downstairs has seating for absolutely everybody, there's places to spread out. I've never felt crowded on this entire cruise. So in a couple hours, that's going to be set up with the full bar setup. Once again, you have a large selection of complimentary items that you can choose from. You could also pay up for a little bit, or you can get that unlimited package if you want to spend 20 euros more per day and kind of basically get anything in the collection. But up here, you have a wide assortment of very, very comfortable seating. You have some games that you can check out and play. We've seen people up here playing cards and different things like that. I love playing Trivial Pursuit. I think it's an incredible way to get to know people, also to have a little bit of competition that's a lot of fun. Out in the front here, they've got some nice, comfortable seating, but once again, it's just a phenomenal vantage point to see where you're going, where you are. So right now, we're actually in an industrial port in Mexico. It's not quite as beautiful, but as we sail out, we get these unbelievable views from here, and you can imagine if you're heading into Iceland or Fiji or one of these incredibly tropical locations where the ship's going to visit, this might be the perfect place to kind of take it all in. So one of the most incredible parts of your cruise experience is if you have one of the suites, you have a butler like Jean. So he has been anything and everything to us on board this ship. I hurt my back, so he got ice and helped arrange a massage for me. But also we just had breakfast in bed today. So if you want it, he's got it. All right, merci. Thank you. So one really cool setup on deck 6 and 5 is all of the big suites are going to be in the back of the ship, and there's a separate door that kind of separates it off from the rest of the ship. As we head back into the suite area, you've got your basically the privileged suites are going to be right here. And what's kind of interesting is there's a nice little seating area. You don't find that outside many rooms on board cruise ships. And then as I head completely all the way to the very back of the ship, you're going to get the biggest suites on board. So you're going to have two different suites here. So you've got the owner's suite on this side and a Grand Deluxe suite. And right below us is a Grand Deluxe suite as well. But what really sets these 4 rooms apart are the massive balconies on the back. You also can head out the door right here and head down to the public spaces. So if you'd like to see what those rooms look like, we have some great room tours for you of both sets of them. One thing that I did want to point out is down on deck 5, the balconies are actually even bigger than on deck 6. We had some friends that invited a bunch of people over the other day, and they had 8 that were dining course by course on the balcony, which is of course something you can do and arrange with your butler if you're in one of the top suites on board the ship. So now I'm going to head up to deck 7. Okay, so up on deck 7 aft, this is the third and final spot where you're going to find the outdoor lounge space. So you have these great overstuffed loungers that are very comfortable. You have towels out here, and then you also can get drink service up here as well if you just let the servers know. So from here, we're going to head into the spa and fitness area, which is going to be midship on deck 7. Before we head into the beauty salon, I did want to point out that this being a brand new expedition ship is highly, highly accessible for those with special needs. So they do have handicap accessible rooms on board, and then the elevators do all of the passenger decks, all the way up to deck 7 here, which is the top, and then they also have special accommodations that you all the way down to the Blue Eye Lounge, which is the very bottom of the passenger space on board. So once again, a great evolution for expedition cruising. So now I'm going to head into the salon area. And basically, a lot of people are on these ships for a very long time. These have these itineraries that you can piece together and do an incredibly long cruise. So you're going to want to have all the services that you have on land. So they can cut, they can style, they also can do the hair dyeing, all of the things that you would need at your beauty salon at home. You can also take advantage of on this ship as well. So now we're heading into the main spa area, and you're going to see this is the area where they're going to set up your appointments and handle any of the questions that you have. And then of course they have a full line of top of the line cosmetics from France. I don't know much about it, but I do know that it's some of the best stuff in the entire world. Okay, so now we're in the treatment area, and right here is where you're going to find kind of the zen, relaxing area where you can get ready for your treatment, or after you finish your treatment, you can still get a little bit of relaxation. They always have water here, and then they have teas, coffee, Nespresso, things along those lines as well. But one great way to get ready, or if you just want to enjoy it, is the sauna. So as we head in here, you've got a full shower, which is obligatory before you get in the sauna, and then you have the most beautiful sauna I've ever seen on the ocean. Of course, it is incredibly hot in here, but the view is unlike anything that I've ever seen on a cruise ship. It's really, really beautiful, and it flows just like the rest of the ship, and the lines are absolutely beautiful, and I've used it several times on board. I highly recommend it. So there's 3 treatment rooms on board. This one's a little bit different than the others. The other 2 are solo for one passenger. This is set up so that you can have a couples massage. They also have the shower over there and then a nice sink, but there's really, really beautiful views. So depending on the treatment that you get, you might have a quiet massage, but you might also have a treatment where you're gonna wanna look out and see where you're sailing, because once again, this sails to the most incredible places around the entire world. So just past the spa is the fitness center. It's not huge. You're not going to have free weights and things along those lines, but you got a great assortment of aerobic exercises. You've got the seated bike, your elliptical machine, and the treadmills as well. One thing that I did want to point out is that I struggle on a lot of cruise ships because I'm too tall to use a lot of the equipment. But what's great here is they put this little cutout. You can see it's intentionally higher so I can actually fit on it. And if I really, really wanted to go to the gym, which I haven't quite yet on this cruise, I can get some great exercise. I did want to point out that they have yoga mats over here as well. And then the most dangerous part of the entire cruise is, well, the scale. No, I'm not even going to try that. It's not worth it today. All right, that French food, lots and lots of deliciousness and butter and all those kind of things. But, well, I need to spend a little more time in here, I guess. Okay, so one thing that I found incredibly unique about this ship is that there's no kind of top deck pool. And the reason that is because this is the space that's reserved for all of the toys on board. This is what this cruise is all about. Ponant invented luxury expedition cruising, and with this ship, they've really taken it to the next level. So you can see the lifeboats on either side up here. They're climate controlled, and then each one has 150 seats, so plenty for everybody on board. But what really sets this apart are the Zodiacs. So you can see they've got them stacked over here. They've got several different sizes of Zodiacs here. You've got the kayaks. These can go right off the back of the marina, just like the Zodiacs can as well. And what's really unique is with only 88 cabins on board, there is a seat for every single person. Actually, there's way more than enough seats for every single person on a Zodiac. So unlike some other luxury cruise lines that are going to put 400 or even 600 passengers on board, every single person can get off essentially at the same time or in the same wave, and you don't have to stagger it. So for me, that's an incredible advantage when you're traveling around the world to these exotic locations and you want to get off and spend as much time as you possibly can exploring. So you'll follow me over to the side. I'll just show a few more. So from my count, you've got 4, 8, 10 Zodiacs, which is absolutely perfect for a ship this size. You got some more kayaks over there as well. Okay. And then just to the front of me actually is where you're going to find the radar domes. So this is not really a passenger area, but the reason that it's not a passenger area is because they really need that space. One fun thing I just thought I'd point out for the crew is the basketball hoop here, but now I don't know that they're ready for a 6'6" guy like me, but I know my back's definitely not ready to play some basketball. So follow me out to the very front of the ship. So right down here is going to take you down to the observatory lounge and then all the way out to the front here. Once again, you get this incredible view. There's so many spots on board to get incredible views. If you're going to be up here, you do need to be escorted by one of the crew members. But I just wanted to point out that you get a great view of the front of the ship, even better than the 2 decks down below. And kind of the, well, I must be the king of the world, I think. Wow. I can imagine taking this into some of the coolest locales in the world. You're seeing a giant waterfall. Maybe you're in French Polynesia and seeing some of the most beautiful mountain ranges anywhere in the world. But I'm ready to get back on this ship and do some incredibly exotic cruising. So just outside the theater is the medical center. Once again, this ship goes to some of the most remote regions of the world. So it's incredibly important that you have a fully operating hospital on board. Okay. So the doctor actually went with us on our last shore excursion, which I thought was very unique and wonderful, actually. Her office is in here. She'll be back in just a little bit. But I wanted to point out that in here you have a full hospital room. And then just over here as well, you're going to have another hospital room with 2 full beds, everything that you'd need, and a full bathroom and everything else. But basically, this is set up as a miniature hospital, so they could treat most things. And then, of course, if they needed to call in like an evacuation or something like that, that could be done as well. But basically, when you're in those remote locations, you've got to have great medical service, and Ponant does a fantastic job with that. So now we're in the theater, and one really unique thing about this space is that there's more seats than there are passengers on board. So you're gonna find there's a theme throughout the entire cruise ship, and I really appreciate that. They're nice, comfortable seats. You've got your cup holders and all those kind of things. But this space is really meant for the lectures that they're gonna have. So when you visit these exotic locations, they're gonna bring people on board that are gonna talk about the specific art, architecture, culture, all of those kind of things. So we had somebody on board yesterday who was talking about the Mayas, did a really great job kind of explaining what we were gonna see with the different excursions as well. So they've got great technology. technology in here. You've got an LED video wall where they can project movies, but also you know, documentaries and things like that to prepare you for where you're going. Also, they're going to have stage shows in here. Maybe they're not quite as big and elaborate as what you would see on board a mega ship, but that's not what this ship is all about. This ship is about education, it's about culture, fine dining, and also about luxury. And you know, they do a great job of blending all of those things together. So you're also going to find great sound system. You hear one of the employees is playing behind us. She's practicing for later, and she is incredible. The musicians have been really fantastic on board. And then finally, you've got the full sound and light booth up there. So this is a fully functional theater, and it's the spot where you're going to learn and really figure out what expedition cruising is all about. Okay, so now I'm in the Blue Eye Lounge, which is on deck 0. This is the coolest thing that I have ever seen on board a cruise ship, and I've never been in a space like this, especially while we're sailing through the ocean. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Basically, when the concept of building these Explorer-class vessels started, the owners of Ponant and the engineers that were designing it, they wanted to find a way to bring the marine world into the ship, and this is kind of the most unique way that you can possibly think about it. So the whole concept is it's designed as if you are inside of a whale. You can see that this looks like the giant eye of a whale. So right now, since we're sailing, the water's kind of brushing against the bow, but when we're in anchorage, this becomes completely clear, and you can see fish and all kinds of mammals outside there. And one really cool thing of what they did is they actually, to bring it the outside in, they put these massive hydrophones on the ship. So you can actually listen to what's happening outside underwater upwards of a couple miles away, which is a totally and completely unique concept. They also put cameras on the bow, so the bulbous part of the bow, there's some cameras in there, and on the sides as well. So if you can't see it out here, they also project on the wall these massive images of dolphins and different things that are sailing along with us. So obviously the design of this is unlike anything else, and so it was a brand new process when they started in 2015. It took a team of over 20 engineers 2 years to get the whole thing designed and certified. In fact, if you kind of look over the side there, you can see that there's 18 separate layers of glass that are stacked together. It was designed and built in Hamburg, Germany, and it went through, of course, all the crash testing and everything that you would need to do for any marine vessel. But the result to me is absolutely stunning. So when you're sitting in here, you can only come in at certain times of the day. Of course, you need to be hosted by a crew member, and that's simply because you are underwater and you're in the lowest part of the ship. So, of course, they have watertight doors and all the protections that you would need to have on any ship. But the whole idea is to come down here with a small group of people and just relax and let the world kind of come to you. So basically, at the bar, they don't even have a blender. They don't do shaken drinks. They only do drinks that are quiet, and they have a ton of these speakers all throughout the entire area that are pumping in not only the sound that's outside, but very quiet and relaxing tones. So when the lights are all in their bluest, which they do at night, and they project the blue light out, which actually attracts animals to it, what you're going to get is a sensory experience unlike any other. So once again, I've never been this low on a cruise ship before, and I've never been in a spot like this anywhere in the world. The architect that designed this is actually someone who's completely famous for designing aquariums, underwater houses, and different different things like this. But for these 6 ships, because they're specifically designed to go in the tropics, they call them the blue and green expedition. So they're not going to go into the Arctic or Antarctica, but they're going to go to French Polynesia and the Caribbean, Africa, and all of these incredible places where you're going to get the most beautiful visual stimulus, as well as the auditory stimulus, and you can just sit down, relax, and pretend that you're a whale sailing through the ocean very peacefully. So this is one side of the lounge here, where you can fit about 10 to 15 people, and if you'll follow me over, here is the second part over there as well. But you can see it's not a very large space, and that's intentional because it's meant to be very personal and very intimate. So whenever you're cruising on board one of these Explorer class ships, I highly recommend that you sign up for one of the tours down here. They'll go through all the details and explain what it's all about. But I also recommend that every time there's an opportunity that you come down, sit, relax, reflect on your day, your experience. Maybe you're on a short expedition, maybe you're on a massive expedition, but make this part of your Ponant experience. One thing that I did want to point out is that this vessel is completely handicap accessible. They have this this chair basically that you sit here, follows the rail down. So being such a unique space, there's not an elevator that could go all the way down into the bottom of the ship to deck 0. So I just wanted to point that out, that if you do need special assistance like that, there are accessible rooms on board the ship, and then all of the spaces are accessible one way or another. So when you're ready to book your Ponant cruise, reach out to harrtravel.com. We are your Ponant experts. We have an unbelievable relationship with the sales team and the service team, so we know how to make sure that you get the most value out of your expedition cruise.